this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill no one.
Wait a second.
Oh, no.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Fellow viewers, and welcome to another episode of the Vlogcast. This time on Horrorween, we are covering Friday the 13th, Part 3, and of course, the final movie in the series, Part 4.
The tragically short-lived series that only lasted 4 movies.
Obviously.
The world would have been a better place.
And this will be a good time to take a break, because next week we'll actually be taking a break, but I will be returning with it once again after election week. But today we're going to just discuss Part 3 and Part 4. Very interesting films. We'll hit them one at a time, but we'll move at a pretty brisk pace. We want to move quickly enough.
Right.
So we're going to start with Part 3, and I'm just going to check in with each of you as per Movies Galore style and just see what y'all's first experiences were. This may even have been your first experience with the film, though I could be wrong. So we'll start over with Dave. Is this your first time seeing Part 4? Not Part 3. Part 3, yeah.
Part 3D, in fact. This is probably my second time watching the film. I watched the film
Got some echo going on there.
Dave, what's going on with your microphone?
Probably because I've got... Hold on.
Technical difficulties.
Give me 1 second here. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Go for it.
I probably saw this about 8 or 9 years ago when I first got the entire series on probably the set that Jacob has here. And I watched it in the marathon with my fiance. And I'd seen the Friday the 13th way beforehand, but I'd never seen all of the series in like one caboodle. So I watched all the way up till like Friday the 13th versus Jason. With
Freddy versus Jason.
The Freddy versus Jason. And then I saw Freddy versus Jason in the theater way before that, but that was my first time viewing the films in their entirety. But now that I've got the Friday the 13th set, kind of been going through marathoning the films with you guys. So seeing it the second time in sharper imagery, I actually rather enjoyed watching it. And the thing that I remember from this film is the fact that this is the first time we get to see the face of Jason masked, and that's kind of what I always think of Part 3 being. But actually, having viewed some of the extras on the Blu-ray, I realize now that evidently, even though a lot of people like this number 6, 3 made the most money. So at the time, so I guess learning that was kind of interesting too. So, but I really like every single Friday the 13th film. I mean, there are a few that I like better, but I like every single film for their own reasons. So I guess that would be my thoughts on this. So, what were your who wants to go next?
Well, I assume that the reason why this one made a lot of money is probably because of the higher cost of the 3D tickets, because much like how a lot of 3D films that came out in the 2010s could consider themselves a hit because of the inflated ticket prices. I could be wrong on that, but I suspect that probably had something to do with it. On top of obviously the popularity of the franchise itself, which was really starting to kick into high gear at that time. But yeah, I'd seen this before. I would love to see this film now that the Scream Factory sets out and now that it has a proper 3D Blu-ray restoration. I would love someday, if I had a 3D television and a 3D player and everything, I would love to see it in better 3D than it was even at the time that it came out. That would be pretty cool, because I have seen it in Anaglyph 3D with the old set with the red and blue glasses, which were, it was okay. It was obviously very dated. The technology was obviously very dated, and I think that when it first came out, you had the clear plastic glasses, which was relatively new at that point. So, bottom line, the 3D technology has certainly gone through a lot of evolutions since it first came out. But as far as the film itself, I mean, outside of the fact that it has hockey mask Jason for the first time, and the fact that like every shot, pretty much has some kind of really obvious, obnoxious 3D effect coming at you. This one's okay. Like, it doesn't really stand out to me relative to other ones outside of the hockey mask Jason and outside the 3D. Like, story-wise, I think it at least for me, it doesn't really stand out as much, but I do really love the opening theme, how it's very kind of funky and disco-y.
The disco theme, as it's
called. I love it.
Oh, best in the franchise. Love it. I frequently play it just to jam out while I clean.
Well, my favorite of the opening themes, I think I like Part 2 and Part 6. Part 5 is a good one too, but Part 2 and Part 6, those are my favorites.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Forrest? Is this your first time checking it out?
Absolutely not. I rented this on. The first time I saw this, I rented it on VHS from Hollywood Video, along with at the time there was not. At the time I rented it, the franchise was up to 9 movies, so I had rented all 9 movies to watch on a Friday the 13th. Yep, and for me the sorry, losing my voice here.
Stop dying.
Hey, I'm like Jason. I keep coming back. Anyway, but for me, this was definitely. I would say it's definitely in the upper echelon of Friday the 13th movies. I mean, with between the first appearance of the hockey mask,
kind of a variety.
I can also say I've had the good fortune of seeing it in theaters in 3D twice.
Wow.
Within the last 5 years.
Very cool.
Which is really a lot of fun. Which is a lot of fun. And also I actually do have I do have the main theme for this movie in regular rotation on my Apple Music.
Right, it's a go-to track, bro.
I've got the waxwork vinyl, and it's like a beautiful thing.
Actually, while you're talking, how about you, Dustin? Is this your first time watching this movie?
Oh, absolutely not. So I first saw this back when, what was it? TNN? It wasn't TNT. It was T something that became the Spike Network.
Oh,
I think it
TNN.
was TNT. Was it TNN or
Oh, it's
TNT?
TNN.
Yeah, 'cause that's where
Yeah.
ECW was for a bit.
And anyway, so the first Friday the 13th movie I saw was actually part 8. Because I'd always been told, never watch these. These are terrible movies, just the Christian conservative
Yeah.
upbringing I had. All these things are awful. Like, they will scare you and you'll die. Basically, is the kind of thing I was told. And so I saw part 8 on TV, and I was kind of like, eh. And then, I saw the first kill in part 8, and I went, oh, okay. And I proceeded to watch the rest of them. So I saw part 3 for the first time in one of those marathons that they used to do all the time. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but they'll play
Probably
all the.
not.
Probably not. Well, they used to play all the Fridays.
They used to do a really good Bond one too. I don't know if that's still going either.
It was like an AMC thing.
Marathons.
Since then, I've seen this movie. I've seen this movie at least once a year for the past 5-6 years.
Yeah.
See, you had to be psyched when that set came out then.
I was pretty happy about it, although I went through some kind of collecting business with... a couple of years ago, I found the tin set that was out of print and really expensive. I found it for, I think, $160. And someone eats their microphone.
That's that goddamn fucking UFO again.
That's what it looked like.
You ain't Travis Waltoning
anyway.
any of us tonight. No thanks.
Anyway, I
Go ahead,
found
Dustin.
that Steelton Blu-ray set, and so I picked that up and I watched all of that. And then I found out that there were extras on the DVD set that weren't on the Steelbook set, and because I wanted to get everything, I tracked that down. It was only $10. So that wasn't too bad. It had a couple commentaries that the Blu-ray set didn't have. And then Shout Factory announced their Ultimate Edition set, which I think all of us bought that.
No.
And it was like, okay, so I double-checked all the lists, and I know some of the people who produce the extras on these, and so I was even asking them, okay, does this have everything from both of those sets? And I've watched the discs in their entirety, and this has everything from the tin set and the old DVD set that Jake was holding up earlier. So this is pretty much the definitive release that we'll probably ever get. So
once they fix all the little imperfections and
there are a couple of errors, like some of the credits when you watch part 3 in 3D, they don't pop out like they're supposed to. Yeah. There is a missing scene in Jason Goes to Hell, and there's also a missing sound effect from Jason X, but you can get replacement discs to fix those issues, which honestly I think are pretty minor.
The missing scene in Jason Goes to Hell is the most egregious one, and that's a my bad situation for them, I think. They seem to be doing a good job of rectifying it,
Yeah, I shared that link with the rest of us in group, and it's pretty easy to find if you just do a Google search for it. I know most of us who have the set probably have already requested it, so it's just a matter of time.
But anyway, back to part 3. Sorry for the long-winded digression. But part 3 has just so many milestones. It gives Jason his kind of iconic look, with the green work shirt and the work and the slacks that he ends up wearing pretty much for the rest of the series. It shows you it totally redoes his face from what we saw in part 2. And I have yet to actually notice this on a watch through of part 3, but you can see his face somewhat early in the movie, he's poking his head out of the barn. Which I saw in some of the extra features when they were doing On Location. It's here's the barn, and it shows the clip where Jason's and it's I never noticed that before.
Well,
I didn't notice that this time.
Yeah, I guess it must be in the movie since they have the clip.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah. I believe you. I'm gonna have to check that out.
And then, of course, it's sort of funny, going through all the extras, nobody's sure whose idea it actually was for the hockey mask. Everybody everybody you ask has a different story.
Mm-hmm.
It seems fairly accidental, like most of the cool things that became a running deal in the franchise. Like in these first movies, they had that basic formula and ingredients in the pot, like a weird slasher movie hot pot of crap, you know? And they eventually sifted out the stuff that they liked the best, you know? Jason gets a full-on, like, bit to the scalp head shave in this that they never explained. Just fell out.
Yeah.
I don't know. The shame of defeat made him have stress-induced baldness. I don't get what the hell's going on there. But.
Well, it does seem like the Friday the 13th series as a whole, they did seem to kind of find their way as they went along, and it wasn't a whole lot that was thought through all that deliberately from the onset. But then again, I mean, I think a lot of those kinds of lower budget shooting on the fly kind of series that they, whatever about them that works that people like.
Right. I mean, like, this is where they started to just, like, get it to perfection, you know? Weird as the final chapter is, and we'll cover that, I'm sure. In later movies, when they brought Jason back, like, they knew exactly the elements to take from this and the fourth one and spin into what made Jason fucking awesome. He's a bit awkward at this point, for sure.
Well, much like how the series kind of was still trying to find its groove, and there was no real playbook for that kind of franchise slasher series yet. You know, so they were kind of stumbling.
They followed the slasher formula that had sort of been established. And they made it a bit of their own thing.
They did, but also they just having cranked them out so religiously, like every year except for, what was it, 84 and 87, something like that, or 83 and 87, I forget which, but point being that when you're kind of, like, it seems like they kept making them because the last ones made a lot of money relative to their budget, and it was just more like, well, that one made money, guess we gotta do another one. And you know,
sort of weird. Paramount wasn't a big fan of the franchise either.
No,
like, Paramount was kind of like, well, they make money. They were kind of like, it was. I've heard it called the blue collar franchise for Paramount because they would just, okay, let's make one and we'll make our money, but they didn't particularly care too much about the series.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that I think it is what it is, and I think that the fans of the series, I think they probably relate to the kind of figuring it out as we go along kind of feel to them. I mean, they are, you know, obviously studio films and they're put out there by a big studio and everything, but they do still manage to have as much of a homegrown kind of feel in as much as a large studio film can, realistically.
Sure. As much as you can get in that environment, you know.
Yeah.
Did we hear from Kim or Jake yet?
I was gonna say, let's see if Kim, was this your first time watching Friday the 13th Part 3?
Oh God, no! I saw this when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up with these films, you know, so it's always kind of been a part of the, you know, my whole, you know, my list of favorite films, series and stuff like that. But I remember growing up, I didn't see Part 4 as much as I'd seen like Part 1 and 2, and I don't really recall seeing Part 3 a whole lot at all when I was a kid, but 1 and 2 were the ones I saw a lot, and then Part 4, you know.
Okay, well,
I think me, her, and Forrest are the only ones in this group, actually, that grew up on these since we were little kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you give your background, Mo?
I was gonna say, you never really gave your background as to whether you'd seen it first.
Oh, of course I saw it. I think last episode I mentioned that our video store was like many mom and pop's video shops, and they didn't have like all the movies, so it wasn't until my parents ordered them for me from one of those video clubs that I got to actually see all the movies. That's why the twist at the end of the first one was still intact for me and all that shit.
It's kind of amazing you got them to buy those for you, because my dad actually had the first 5 Friday movies on beta cassette.
Oh.
And
Dude, my parents were animals about it, bro. Like, I saw Alien as a little kid accidentally, and then they were just like, well, he likes this shit. And so they just started, they showed me Hills Have Eyes, It's Alive, Rosemary's Baby, Poltergeist, like, immediately.
They rented Alien for me when I was 3 because me and my dad, like, collected the toys, and I think they had no idea what it was. Like,
You see, that seems to happen.
Surprise.
That seems to happen sometimes with families. Like, one of my funny stories growing up was when we were visiting my mom's sister and her family, and for whatever reason, I don't know who made the choice, but someone selected Species for us to watch together.
Yes.
And everyone was kind of scandalized.
Oh yeah. Well,
I am definitely that type of uncle and proud of it.
my parents
Here you guys
rented.
go.
They rented The Fly for us when I was young, and I think that they kind of forgot which version of it that was available. So I ended up watching most of at least the first third of the 86 Fly, and I got up to the point where Jeff Goldblum gives the guy a compound fracture in his wrist, and I went running out of the room. And then after that, I watched the 1958 Fly, and I loved it. And many years later, I finally watched all of the 86 Fly. But I think we all have those stories.
I didn't see the original Fly till this year when I got the Fly box set.
I was going to say, it's still there at Walmart, too.
It is. Right. They lied to my ass. I was like all like frantic and bought one that had minor damage to one of the corners because they were like, "Oh, it's going out of print." And so I was like, "Well, I might as well get it for this price." And then there was just brand new ones in there.
We never did get Jake's first time.
Oh, I didn't get to finish mine.
We'll finish it, Mom.
As I was saying, my parents went all out with it. They just ordered me the shit, so I saw it. I loved it as a kid, dude. Okay, this is not meant to make this movie look bad at all, but it's kind of butt. Like, the more I watch it as I get older, it's kind of ass, The 3D gimmick ruins a lot of it. It's got that bumping theme song going for it. It's got a lot of historic firsts for the series. Probably our first real, properly visceral machete kill, too. Dude getting the one to the face and falling down the stairs was hilarious. But in this one, it's like proper Jason shit, But the 3D stuff just ages worse and worse as time goes on. Jason and his bald-headedness not being explained bothers me for some reason. I don't know why. And it's got the worst acting in the franchise, probably by far.
A lot of us.
I've got a lot of gripes about it, but at the same time, it is hilariously fun. It's also got some of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise, and it did give us the hockey mask. So it's one that I'm in a weird place with these days. It was a childhood favorite, but now I just kind of realize it's a bit wank, Like, the 3D gimmick probably would have been best left out of it if I could go back and change something about it.
So kind of like that turtle special you were talking about earlier?
Oh, God. Whoever's idea that was should be prosecuted or something. Ridiculous.
So Jake, is this your first time seeing this movie?
It was indeed. It was my first time watching this movie. And to borrow a line from you from last week, I will probably be the slight dissenter of the group with this one. I found the movie okay. I mean, it does have certain elements that make it hard to sweep under the rug, like the introduction of the mask and whatnot. And there were moments that were enjoyable. Overall, and I have to make an admission, unfortunately, my narcolepsy usually comes in about a third of the way into the movie, but this time it did the moment I sat down. So I really don't remember much of anything of the first 20 minutes or so. But once
Nothing really happens in the first 20 minutes, so you're okay.
So there we go.
Don't we get those crusty people getting killed at like that little roadside place?
We do, but that's about all that happens.
I vaguely remember, you're talking about the old couple, right? I kind of remember that. I think I really came to when the biker group got attacked. And from there on, I paid attention pretty well. But but one thing I will say about this movie that I have to say, I know one of the main critical issues with this series is that, and I'm kind of curious what people who really like the show would think is the exact point that the series jumps the shark narratively. But narratively, it definitely jumps way the hell over that shark. And it is, by the time the third movie comes around, the third and fourth movies shouldn't exist. They make no sense logically. So I can't get over that. But on the other hand, they are fun enough. And the fourth one in particular, we'll get to that when we get to it. But the third one, of the four I've seen so far, it's probably going to be the one I remember the least. We'll leave it at that.
Well, with that, me, of course, it was not my first time watching it. Surprise on that. But I think I went over this in the last one. Essentially, when I got that full set, I did a full-on marathon because I'd only really seen the first two films steadily up until then. And then when I got that Crystal Lake box set, I was like, yep, I need to marathon this because it's been too long. And I admit, the third film is probably the least memorable film in the series for me. The only thing I remembered out of the film was the part at the beginning where the guy was stealing the donuts, because I remembered that stuff at the beginning. It's like, ew, you're taking it right out of the box. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, and I had stores like that around growing up because I grew up in the country like that. So I'm thinking to myself, oh God, were they doing that stuff over in those little grocery stores we had to shop at growing up?
Or he takes like a swig of Sunny D and puts it back.
Yeah,
the donut thing isn't really that bad. It's just kind of like, oh, what the hell? I mean, I'm not going to buy donuts that are missing donuts, but the Sunny D is.
But Mo, what if you really, really want donuts and there's only one?
If I was drunk and it was like 2 a.m., I'm buying them. I don't give a fuck. Have a couple more before I leave.
If it were set today, then it would be. Who was it? Was it Ariana Grande who got in trouble for licking the donuts or whatever?
Oh, the ice cream thing.
Oh, come on.
Whatever that was.
Yeah, the whole thing of the movie, the 3D gimmicks, and in reality, most of the movies that use 3D, especially back then, tended to use it mostly as a gimmick. It was very rare that you saw it used in a clever way. I mean, I can think of only a few on the back, like just a few even today that are, I mean, one of my favorites that use the technology would be 13 Ghosts, which is a really old film, but they use that technology in a way that really made almost for a different experience if you watched it one way versus the other. This is just, hey, look, we can do 3D. Hey, look. Oh, look at this pole that's sticking out at you.
They're just throwing things against the wall.
At least with Harold and Kumar, they made a joke of it. They're like, yeah, look, it's 3D.
Well, that, or like, I'm thinking of like Piranha 3D or Drive Angry 3D, which were fucking great. But like, the whole film is like self-aware and just trying to be as ridiculous as possible and in as entertaining a way as possible, and at least for me, they both succeed unbelievably well.
Let us not forget Jackass 3D also.
Oh yes.
Well, and let us not forget that originally the subplot of this film was actually supposed to be in a psych ward, dealing with the main character's, psychological aspect.
Subplot?
Yeah.
That implies a real plot.
That was the main plot. Yeah, sorry.
That sounds pretty lame, honestly. Like, lamer than what we got.
I'm going to move fast forward through this just because we've got another movie to cover. but I'm not going to skip it. But I'm going to run through the plot and hit the groups of characters real quick, and then we'll comment as we go.
There's not really that much in this one. There's a lot more to talk about in part 4, but still.
So we have basically you've got our beginning section where we just show that Jason's still alive. He's still going out and slaughtering people. And 2 people in particular, like the grocery store guy and his wife. And then we move on to basically 2 groups. And one main group of kids kind of going around, one of them kind of recovering from a past trauma there with Jason involved. And the rest is kind of being there to help out, going on this cool weekend out in the country in this nice-ish house out in the middle of nowhere. And then you have, of course, the group of bikers, which kind of intersect with the group as they go and really kind of bring things out as we go along. Of course, then Jason happens upon them and starts slaughtering everybody, and hence we get where we're going.
I think it's worth noting that this movie takes place roughly a day after part 2 in continuity.
It's reported on the news, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it follows the structure of part 2 pretty closely because this is the phase of the series where they're establishing the formula, which they'll stick to that formula through part 5.
In a deleted scene, Jason goes to a barber shop and he's like, "Yo, keep it real close, okay? Because I gotta really be aerodynamic so I can chase down this next group of teenagers or some shit." Like, how the hell does that make sense? His hair's all gone in one day. What?
Let's talk about Jason in this one. He is the main character after all, and probably the protagonist. Really, if you think about it, most of those teens aren't really good people anyway. With this being said, well, let's talk about this Jason. What are y'all's thought about him as compared to later movies and earlier movies?
In this one, first of all, he's not a zombie in this one, so he's still alive.
Yep.
And it's kind of hard to nail him down, because I'm thinking of part 4 when I say this, but there's a fan commentary on part 4 where they talk about, part 4 is the one where Jason is still scary, and he wasn't scary to me in part 3.
Yeah, at all.
But I can kind of see how people would be afraid of that. I can kind of see how people would be scared of this Jason.
The dream sequence, especially, where he's up in the window, I'm sure we'll get to that part. But this is demo tape Jason for sure. It's like they're figuring out what their thing is going to be with the character, and then they execute it fairly flawlessly for like a first real outing in number 4, and then obviously they killed his ass, which we'll get to. But they had to do like another bridge in the gap movie, which
part 5 follows the formula well. It's just not Jason.
It does, yeah, and it's still an awesome movie. It's one of my favorites. But,
yeah.
This is demo tape Jason for sure. He's kind of somewhere between like hillbilly eating squirrels in the goddamn woods with a potato sack on his head, and then like actual Jason that's Jason-y, you know what I mean? Like we get that first real machete kill, and I think that's the moment in the movie that you really see like, okay, they sort of distilled that and carried it forward and left behind some of the more hokey, clumsy slasher stuff. And it's pretty magnificent to watch it progress through all of them when you really look at it in hindsight.
To me, he's still mortal in this one. He's somewhat mortal in 4, but not like he was in 2 and 3. And 2 and 3, it looked like he could actually feel pain when he was hit. And it looked like he kind of lost that edge after 3, but darned if you hit him and he was like, huh? And he gets stunned for a little bit.
Well, in this one, he leans out of the way when the girl is slashing at him.
Yeah, he didn't want to get hit.
He screams in pain. He screams in pain when he gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Well, and he also gets kicked in the balls, which is funny.
Yeah. That's always good.
So, Kim, what are your thoughts on it?
On the movie as a whole, or
On
On
Jason.
On
what are
Jason's
you doing to
characterization.
Anderson? Oh, poor Anderson. He he definitely takes a beating, I would say, but Anderson. As far as part 4 is concerned, I feel like this Jason is a bit more unstoppable, in my opinion, because he doesn't really go down so easily until Tommy Jarvis just starts hacking the crap out of him.
Well, fourth Jason is definitely much more like the later Jasons in part 3 and 2 Jason.
Yeah, more supernatural. Part 2 and part 3, I think was it part 2? I think we could actually hear him go, oof.
Yeah.
Because it hurt him.
Though I'll give him this. Part 2, Jason was quick. He was an agile one in part 2. Part 3 as well, a little bit more. He started losing that and becoming more slow and just like methodical as he went on.
Yeah.
Well, if his fingernails are any indication, all right, he's probably not clipping his friggin' toenails either. So they might be growing out a bit in those shoes and making it harder for him to run. And then once he's like a zombie, he doesn't have to. But he's got some gnarly nails going in this bitch. I'll tell you what.
Anyone want to volunteer the a character to talk about as we go through these? I'm not going to hit the plot by plot points.
How
we'll
about
just kind of hit it as we go.
I was going to say, how about? I was going to say maybe I would suggest the man, the very guy that he killed for his hot.
Shelley.
Shelley is a pretty noteworthy character.
He is.
He's a lawyer now, and he's still pretty involved with the Friday franchise.
Yeah.
When the game came out, he would like play with fans and do all kinds of cool stuff.
Cool dude.
I know that,
by all accounts, in the movie, probably the worst yuckster, I think. And the guy in part 1 was funnier than Shelley.
Yeah, actually, at one point, he was actually a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when it first debuted.
It's dope.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. He definitely came across as somebody who is acting a bit under his age group when he was on there.
Shelley's super annoying, man. Like again, there's always like the jokester characters or whatever, and they're usually kind of funny. Shelley, it's just unsympathetic as shit.
Well, he looked like he didn't understand. He didn't understand the social cues at all.
I'll admit, I actually used to feel bad. I actually used to feel bad for Shelley, growing up.
I still feel bad for Shelley.
Yeah, kind of too. Because he tried. Maybe just because he tried so hard to win over Vera, and but it's like he was trying to win over Vera, but he was just trying so hard.
Maybe I feel bad for him too, man. But it's just the thing is, I don't want to feel that shit when I'm watching a slasher movie.
I feel bad for him, but coming from the perspective of a woman, when you've got your friends telling you over and over and over again to stop doing stupid shit. Like, we get it. You're trying to get a girl's attention, but they're telling you, stop doing this. You're pissing people off, and you're still doing it. Like, okay, so this is why you can't get a date. This is why you don't have really a lot of friends.
Hey, let's be real, though. I've been in those situations several times with, like, groups of teenagers like that when I was a teenager, and ain't nobody banging Shelley, no matter how charismatic you... Not in front of the friends, at least. They might take them to Olive Garden and do it on a weekday, but they're not fucking doing that on the campus.
He would probably be able to find someone if he wasn't... I mean, he's not going to get, like, the character of Vera. He's not going to get her, but...
Yeah, she's out of
league. If he stopped acting like a 12-year-old boy.
I feel worse for Crispin Glover in the final chapter because he seems like he's more obviously socially debilitated, but also that he has more to offer because Shelley just seems like a douche. And
yeah, but Crispin Glover had those sick fucking dance moves,
I
bro.
know.
Yes. Well, but you know what I mean. Well, you know what I mean, though, right? Like, he seems like someone that if he could get over his shyness or whatever, that he would conceivably have a lot more to offer a woman. And it does seem like he is kind of on the road to getting out of his shell only to get axed, but...
I mean,
you know, it's
Jason.
he's got his looks going for him. I mean, he can be a little socially awkward or whatever, but I feel like that what he was experiencing with his issues, he can get over that. Like a little bit more confidence will go a long way. But he's good looking. Like, at least he's got that.
He's probably super nice. I mean, I don't know. He's cute. Like a koala bear is cute. You know what I mean? It's
A koala bear's a mean little bugger, supposedly.
Yeah. Issue with Shelley at the end is that every time I would feel for the man, every time I would do it, he would do something to make me go, "Oh, screw him." Like that, it's like, okay, he's a little bit awkward, but, he's that kind of, drama geek or something like that. And then he does that thing where he pretends like he's been stabbed to death, and I'm like, okay, I lose all liking I had for you. Then he earns some back when he attacks the bikers, trying to defend her honor, essentially. And then he loses it straight away. Everything he gained when he did that stupid thing with the scuba gear that he just happened to have with him.
Well, that's what I mean. And even the thing at the market, I don't know if that's like he just was thinking he was going to get laid or something. Like, he couldn't step to that heat right there. And he got the dude's window punched out of his bug, didn't he?
Yeah.
Windshield.
Well, it wasn't just him, though. I think it was both of them that did that, though, at the end of it. They weren't...
It is interesting when you look at the Friday the 13th films and slasher films in general, but especially these films, when you look at them through a kind of sociological lens and you analyze the idiosyncrasies of certain characters that are, socially inhibited or debilitated in whatever way, or the ones who are very, very well suited to socialization to the point where they're like sexually indiscriminate, or you have like part 5 where people are like outright mentally ill and things like that. You could definitely take a deep dive into some psychology of young people if you really wanted to.
Well, with that being said, other characters that y'all want to talk about or cover?
I really like the bong smoking couple. That's my favorite part. Still one of my favorite parts in the whole thing.
Old to be.
The van's on fire!
Wasn't there the part... I forgot about them. What was that one part that guy did? There was one part that made me laugh. It was like he was in the outhouse and it's like shook really bad. Am I remembering this right? And then he's like, he'd just taken a hit and he was like, wow,
heavy shit. Dude, that's one of those moments where, I don't know where Jason would stand on that now. It's legal in most states. I've been smoking weed the whole time right here. It's like, it's...
But you ever notice
all they're guilty of is smoking some weed and I think making popcorn at one point.
Yeah.
They had a long setup to this film's killings, but once the killing started, it just went like bap, 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 and moved you to the end like ultra quick at that point. It was as if they were just waiting for that first shoe to drop, and then boom, let's move, let's get going.
I think it has one of the longest lead-ups, actually, because I watched, before we got in here, I watched like the kill count video or whatever, because they do the time when like the kills happen or whatever.
Right.
And we do get the first ones, the initial ones, just like part 2 or whatever. But the actual like group of kids getting killed or group of characters, I think it's like 40 minutes into the movie before the first kill happens, where that's concerned. So.
Not to mention the first, the first 6 minutes or whatever, just straight up as previous film footage. It's like you get that long lead up to the movie itself. But
that's what you get for complaining about the recap last episode, Jake.
And that's what, I know. And that's what I was going to say. I was going to say something earlier about that when you guys were talking about Jason. I felt like he was, for much of the film, he was kind of aimless. Like he was just kind of wandering around. And it was eventually he was like, "Oh, I got to start killing people."
He forgot his motivation.
Exactly.
What is recapping pointless to anyone?
I think the point.
I'm
I
not
think that he was hiding in the barn, and it just happened to be their barn.
So
Yeah.
recapping is not
that
pointless.
He was walking around out there like, man, this fresh, close cut really does feel nice on the scalp. And it was just,
Well, Dave, we
That's
talked about
true.
that
I
when
like
we were
that.
watching
It
it.
feels so good when you go from long to short.
Dave, we talked about this though about recapping and how back in the early '80s, the home video market was crap. There was nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for people who had seen the first two movies, it may have been a couple of years. So they may be like, okay, I don't remember what happened. I'm like, okay, so what's going on? Nowadays, it's not. If you want to know what happened in the first film or the second film or the third film, okay, fine. Go rewatch the movie because we have home video.
exactly.
Look it up online. Like
It's kind of endearing in that sense because it makes you think of a time when like you maybe got to rent it, you probably didn't own it because tapes cost an exorbitant amount. I see that when I put together like Fangoria reviews in the past. You'd spend like $60 or $80 in 1980s money on a goddamn tape.
Well, you could see though today's crop of 7, 8, 9-year-olds watching this for the first time, sitting down and going, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Well, speaking
You
of
were saying something, Dustin?
speaking of recapping and speaking of Jason forgetting his motivation or whatever. So just to recap, part 1 had 10 kills, part 2 had 9, as we're counting the bodies and everything for this series. Now we're at part 3, 12 kills. So we got Verizon.
Getting closer to 13. Probably would have been easier to hit it right out of the gate, but what do I know? What we should recap is what the hell Dustin was saying right there.
All I was going to say was I watched the Vestron video Little Monsters recently, and one of the extras is a VHS ad for it, like an electric press kit for video stores. It's like, get this for your video store, $89.99.
It makes you think back on it, and you're like, no wonder those guys were like fucking sticklers about late returns, because you're sitting on like $100 of their money almost,
But keep in mind, I mean, there's a reason why part 4 kind of started doing away with that stuff, because that's when the home video market started to really take off, and people could access these. But up until then, you got like people who would had to have gone a year. I mean, that's a long time to go, and you're like, what the heck happened in the last film again? No, people died, I guess, maybe.
Do you guys ever have like nostalgia for a time period you didn't grow up in, right?
Well,
like you see something like old newspaper ads for a movie, and you think like, man, that seems pretty whack now. But when you think back on it, it's like, damn, seeing an ad for like a horror movie in the newspaper when you didn't have the internet or something, and it's like all you had to go on was that little image with the logo. There's so many of those I'd have been hyped for.
You know what's interesting, just thinking about it? So 1980, obviously the first Friday the 13th comes out. 1980 is also when The Empire Strikes Back comes out. The Empire Strikes Back is much like, Star Wars in general, is paying homage to the old film serials from the 30s, where they would, either do some kind of a recap or set up the episode that you're about to see. With Star Wars, obviously that was kind of at the dawning of the home video age, but it, instead of really recapping the previous movie, it helped to fill in gaps of time between the movies. Now it helps
there
to
was
set
a
up
novel.
It helps to set up
between those.
That's right, but it also helps set up the movie that we're about to see, but it doesn't really recap the previous one. Now, granted, you can reasonably infer what happened before based on the plotting of the next one and all that stuff. But point being, I find that kind of unique because normally in the pre-home video era, they would recap the previous film inside of the movie that you're currently watching because of that.
I definitely would have needed it. I'm pretty sure in that time, like at least the Atari 7800 would have been out, so I'd have been upgrading if I was a little kid at the time or something, and totally a million other little dumbass kid things on my mind. So I can see Jake's point there.
What were you saying?
With this directly following the events of part 2, you would have to have a recap of some kind.
Oh,
yeah.
It's just a necessity of the story.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we don't have a lot going on character-wise. There, a lot of them are just basic tropes. There as much as characters.
That was
You got the
intentional, I believe.
bikers. You got the jokester, and really and truly, I consider him, as knowing he is, he's probably the most significant character because he gives Jason his mask.
Mm-hmm.
You have the one that was a survivor girl who survived a similar attack,
Right.
and then you have the male love interest, and you had the stoners. You had the girl that they kind of threw to our kind of awkward guy, and you had the other couple, which I don't remember anything about.
Pregnant.
Oh yeah, pregnant woman. Yeah.
Pregnant teenager.
And
You're muted, Mo.
Remind me of that later,
anybody-
the pregnant lady and the main couple, because there is something I want to touch on that. I'm not going to do it right now, right over your shit, but go ahead.
Well, if you want, you might, because like I say, this is where we're touching on the characters. Plot line, I'm not going to go over too much, because once we're done with characters, I'll ask about any plot points, and then we'll move to like favorite themes.
It's not long-winded, but it's quite the deal.
Well, I guess you could say... Go ahead.
Hold on, bro. Let me spit this at you guys real quick, see how you feel.
Yeah, go.
There's the pregnant girl, right? For no reason other than that she's just pregnant. It doesn't matter. She gets killed anyways. So he kills a baby at that point too, which was maybe not something we want to go in depth on, but it's just a thing.
Was that part of the
Well, we don't know how far along she is.
Yeah, it's probably harmless. But the point is, they've got the pregnant girl for no reason. They've got the girl that was accosted by Jason in the woods for no reason. That is the love interest of the main character of the movie, and I believe the survivor girl at the end, correct?
Yes, yes, Chris.
Why didn't they actually have it where she didn't know, like she told him she was pregnant? She should have been the pregnant one. And she should have assumed it was Rick's baby, but then at the end, little baby Jason pops out. Could have done it just like he did in the lake too, just like
definitely would
have been different. Well, I'd read that they scrapped the whole idea that he'd actually had relations with her because that was out of character. Like, I don't know.
What about?
I don't know.
What about you, Dave? You had said you were going to say something.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot what I was gonna say. So let me think about it.
I'll throw one thing out while Dave's thinking regarding Chris, the main character. I had the same reaction to her, more or less, that I had to the main protagonist in Night of the Demons, which of course we'll be talking about tomorrow. She was much cuter, so she had that going for her. But I felt like both of them were worst survival girl ever, up until the script told them to be better, and then suddenly they became badass. And it was like, it was worse in Night of the Demons than it was here. But both of them gave me that vibe of just like, why is this a survivor girl?
Yeah.
Right, and it's an unfortunate symptom of these movies. Every now and again you get a girl that's just like a generic plug that they fucking fit in there to have that character that's there, to be that character.
Right. They're just like totally helpless, and that seems to be their character trait.
and bad acting. They both were really bad acting.
This, I think, is the worst.
By the way, I just want to chime in.
Dave,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wanted to chime in that today, actually, since we're on the subject of Chris, Dana Kimmel, the actress who played Chris, it is her birthday today.
Oh. Well, happy birthday.
An amazing coincidence.
All right, so the thing that I was thinking of is the fact that at least I guess one of the kills was a handstand kill, and the guy standing on his hands and got macheted.
Jason chops him in half. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like that kill. Kill. I just figured since he was kind of a goofball too, goofing around a little bit. I don't think the Chili was the main jokester, because he was the other guy. This guy was juggling just like he was, those apples or whatever before. Yeah. So, but I really like that kill.
Which, with the juggling thing, that did bring up one thing that I found interesting about what I'd read about it, was that they said that some of the people said that they thought they spent more time looking for stuff to do 3D than they did actually acting.
Yeah.
On the video that you see in the extras, they actually say something about that. That the fact when they were juggling, they had to juggle like 20 to 30 times just to get the objects high enough for the 3D camera to see it hit the ceiling. And because of the 3D effects, they had to take just that many takes on every single scene they were doing the 3D images in. So.
That feels like such a stupid thing to have been involved in, because it's not even that cool at the end of the day. It's one of the worst 3D effects in the fucking movie.
It was a novelty back then, and that's
not even novel. That's just like they're just throwing apples at it, or whatever the fuck it was. I don't remember.
They were apples.
Even independent studios were taking on the 3D thing. David Sterling even got in on a little bit of the early 3D stuff. Camp Blood was in 3D at one point in time. So.
Oh yeah. The only other ones, I'm not gonna dwell too much on any of the others unless you come back to it, is the biker group, which does have some significance, and the fact that they kind of, even actually one of my least favorite concepts in this is that they go to the whole trouble of the biker gang siphoning their tank, showing that there's a extra tank, activating the extra tank, and then getting no use out of it because it's stuck on a freaking bridge. To me, that was one of the most terrible setups ever. It's like, we're going to set this up to go nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think this is where this movie has some of its greatest weaknesses. There's a lot of setups that just don't pay off. Though there are some very brutal kills, and I was surprised finding out the one biker guy still lived after the brutal way Jason was kicking the crap out of him.
Yeah, he does. And weirdly, not to point, I'm not really in the business of pointing out criticisms, but I did watch the kill count video before this just to refresh my brain a little bit. And the dude that narrates the video says he gets punched when he's clearly holding some type of hammer and or tool. You know what I mean? It's like, he's not just punching that dude in the head.
Is this the only time?
He's whacking him with something.
Clearly. I thought it was a cleaver.
I don't think it was a cleaver. It seemed bluntish,
like a bat or something. I tried very hard to tease out what it actually was, and aside from something involving a wooden handle, that was all I got.
Right. It even could have been like one of those meat tenderizers out of the kitchen. I don't know why that'd be in the barn, but who knows what those farmers were up to before we showed up. Point being, it's very clear what's going on in the scene. So
Jason makes sure he kills his stuff. I don't think that there's been any other instance in the entirety of it to where Jason just beats the crap out of a guy and then just leaves him.
I feel like there's actually several, though, and we're probably going to notice them going back through it now, because that doesn't feel uncharacteristic to the series. 4, which we'll get into here soon, though, does have the distinction of being the first one to just brutally kill the guy you think is going to be some type of a hero.
Yeah, Well, I can say that this one has been interesting. We have our like confrontation in the barn and all the different kills throughout, but our survivor girl does survive at the end of this one. Even though they do try and do a dream they did a dream sequence pretty much every freaking movie up until 5, I think.
And it's particularly embarrassing this time around.
I was up until three was actually, I feel like was the first one to do the surprise dream scare.
Actually, no, they didn't do it in 4 because they were going to, but then they cut it at the last.
What was the break?
Right.
Because they did do the dream 1 and 4. We actually watched the alternate ending, which we'll go over at the discussion of 4. But
it might as well have been a dream in the first 2 movies. Like, goddamn! Like at this point,
you know about the deleted ending for part 3, where it's a dream, and Jason comes out of the house and decapitates the final girl.
Yeah,
that'd have been amazing.
I think they actually shot it. They just didn't use it. There are stills. There's stills of it, but footage does not exist.
That's a bummer.
I would have rather seen that ending.
Let's be real about this here, okay? I mean, I know there's some of us, like, I'm probably in the same boat as Forrest a lot of the time with this, where I do have the nostalgia for it. Of course, if I'd seen it in the theater twice, I would think it was rad, because it is pretty fucking rad for what it is, which is a cheap cash-in on the goddamn 3D craze of using Friday the 13th as a vehicle. It gave us the hockey mask, it gave us our first real visceral Jason kill, and it set up some other stuff for the formula going forward, but at the end of the day, most of the reason we praise it is because the goddamn theme song and the Jason mask, most of it's ass. That's my opinion on it. Like, a lot of it is ass, dude. It's a lot of
as I say,
bad acting and stuff like that, you know.
This of course brings me to mind of that scene in Spaceballs. So what is it you do here? Merchandising.
Merchandising. Where the real money from the movie is made.
Look no further than the lady that gets the hot poker through the gut, because that acting right there, I think, is symbolic of the amount of thought that went into that end of this particular installment. I think they thought that the 3D gimmick was going to sell, and it apparently did, based on what Dane said.
At the time.
Yeah, well, it's such that
don't hold up though.
It's interesting. So usually when a franchise gets to 3D, it's usually a little bit later in the series lifespan. Like, I'm thinking of, like, Resident Evil didn't go to 3D right away. Saw the quote-unquote final chapter of that one, which, why didn't they learn their lesson from Friday the 13th? That one was in 3D. For a while there, it was like this kind of last-ditch effort to try and inject some life into the series, or like Amityville 3D and stuff. But Friday the 13th, it went to 3D relatively early, and only for the one movie. And then even with the final chapter, quote unquote, that didn't stop them from turning right back around and going, nope. A new beginning. But it's just I find that is kind of funny to me, that it was sort of this outlier relative to other installments that go 3D out of nowhere.
So while we're talking about the 3D, why don't we move into special effects so we can start moving out through this. I thought that the special effects, as far as kills were concerned, the kills were quite impressive, actually, for this one. In comparison, I think that they were still pretty good. They had some pretty nice ones there. Of course, they did resort to a lot of I'm staking you with a pitchfork and stuff like that, but there were a few pretty cool ones.
Yeah, they used the pitchfork twice.
There's like definitely what do you call it? The head crush. Let's just talk about that,
the head
because
crush.
honestly, it is. But dude, would it have been so much better not in 3D? Like, let's just be honest about it. you had I done it, I'd have fucking had Jason pin that dude to the cabin and crush his head against the cabin without the 3D effect. It would have saved the whole deal. You could have cut in shots where it was like the actual dude having his head kind of crushed against the cabin for a minute. It would have looked way more real and would have fit in with the rest of the movie better. The head crush it's fun as hell because his eyeball pops out and shit like towards the screen. But it's hokey, man. Like, it doesn't hold up anymore.
And what about the music? What did y'all think?
Well, this has great music by Harry Manfredini. He didn't really do much new stuff for this because they used a lot of the same music from part 1 and 2, which was something that they kind of did a lot with the series. They would recycle a lot of things.
I kind of stretched it out.
Yeah. So the new music Manfredini writes for this one is pretty great. So, and especially that disco theme, which everybody loves.
Oh man.
And it's just such a weird track. Like, it's hard to describe.
Anything you can basically cut and paste the Thriller dance moves to is awesome. Okay. This track is definitely a contender for that.
Does anybody have anything they want to say about this one before we move to favorite scenes and then we move straight into part 4?
Definitely take it with a grain of salt, man. I mean, there's a lot of hype that goes into this nowadays because it's the one where he gets the hockey mask. It's not as cool as... Okay, I feel like I've shat on it a lot, but I really do actually love this movie. It's just comparing it to what came before and after is a bit of a dilemma because it's just not of the same quality anymore, whereas the other stuff holds up a little better because it don't have that 3D gimmick and random crap that they just... Well, it does have that, but that aside, take it with a grain of salt. Go into it looking at it as a historic oddity and not as the thing you measure all future Friday the 13th movies on, because if you do that shit, you're not going to want to watch part 4, and that's one of the better ones in the series. So that's my thoughts.
Oh, I hear a kitty.
Yeah,
Oh, I heard one too.
I got a foo. He's trying to rub up against the computer as I'm talking. He's saying it's my computer.
I do also want to comment on a fun coincidence. Your background is that poster there, Brandon, and earlier when you stood up, it the way the background effect works with the camera, it made it look like that knife just fucking chopped you in half. Like, I was laughing for a solid minute and a half about that shit.
Got him.
Nice.
Can we see the kitty?
Oh, he came and went. He's he's over by the ring light. But unlike
Mr. Arnold,
he doesn't fool with the ring.
Anderson, excuse me, the ass man.
So let's talk about favorite scenes, and we'll move on to 4. So, Ken, what was your favorite scene of the third film?
Trying to think. Probably the damn.
Do you need us to come back to you?
Yeah, I gotta think for a second.
Yeah, I think I'll throw mine in.
Go for it.
I think my favorite scene is the final battle in the barn, where she's just throwing all this stuff at him. She knocks him out with a shovel. She tries to hang him. She hits him in the head with an axe. Like, it takes so much to put Jason down, and he's not even a zombie yet. So I enjoy it.
It is pretty great.
How about
and it leaves that iconic niche, or that notch in the hockey mask that's so cool. Like, I'm pretty sure any of us who ever made that costume as a kid out of like your dad's coveralls and a $2 mask from Walmart cut that like axe notch in the fucking mask, because it's not the Jason mask without that. You gotta have that shit.
Yeah, he gets hit in the head with the axe, and then he reaches out like Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's
like,
and that's glorious. The whole imagery of that is so great, dude. I mean, it's again, I ragged on the movie a lot, but that's mostly because of how it holds up, because that other shit. As like a Friday the 13th movie, if you strip all that away, which is hard to do because it's prevalent through the bitch. It's still pretty good, you know. And if I had my favorite scene other than like the bong in the van, that's just classic. It's definitely the hot poker scene because it ends the worst run of acting we've ever seen in the fucking franchise for sure, dude. That lady's like, "Oh my god!"
You seen the lady? You see the lady in the beginning of part 8, right?
Dude, watch the two back to back and tell me that stoner chick. Maybe that was her offense. I don't know if Jason's clairvoyant. Maybe he knew that she was just fucking horrible, and he was like, "I'm gonna kill these guys just cause." Because all they did was smoke weed and make popcorn. That guy used the outhouse, and they died.
Yeah.
What about you, Jake? What's your favorite scene?
The outhouse scene. Like when he died, so I was amused.
Be right back.
That's good stuff.
All right. How about you, Dave?
I would have to say that well, the handstand scene is a favorite, but I would have to concur with Dustin. That last battle scene was priceless. I mean, how she got hung on that way in that barn, that was just uberly creepy, you know. So, and then there was the moment where the Drew guy, the second guy, he's like he hasn't found anything yet, and then he gets his, you know.
So what about let's see, Dane? You have favorite scene?
Well, I really love the opening credits, to be honest, because of how funky the theme song was. And it does kind of stand out from the other opening credits. But in terms of actual scenes, I do think that final battle definitely stands out.
I see you two, sir, are a connoisseur of fine taste.
I try to be.
What about you, Forrest? What's your favorite scene?
Boy, I'm a bit of a toss up between Jason, between Jason's first kill with wearing the hockey mask, where he takes the harpoon and fires it at the girl's eye, only because it was his first time. It was his first kill wearing the hockey mask. But although I then also the head crushing. I'm sorry, but that eyeball popping at the screen always gets.
It gets to you.
Yeah, in a fun way.
See, that's the thing. It's, again, I don't want it to sound like I don't think that it's fun. It's just, it would have been so much more brutal done in a properly practical way where it wasn't centered around the 3D gimmick. Like, if he grabbed that dude around the corner and pushed him against the wall and then crushed his head against the cabin, and you just saw like eyeballs and brains shoot out from the side real quick, like that would have been way more brutal than, eyeball on a string. It's not to say that it's not fun though.
Well,
it is.
I mean,
totally
for me,
fun.
the whole thing that kind of holds the series back, in terms of like true greatness, is just more so that, which again, this is part of, I think, why the super fans, why they love it, is that in many ways they were just kind of figuring things out as they went along. But for me, it's like I would have loved it if you could have gotten at least one movie, which I would argue Part 6 does satisfy this, but like if you had one that really did feel like a complete film with characters that had, sufficient arcs, or, just kind of hit a lot of those basic aspects of filmmaking, because then you would have, on a storytelling level, because then you'd have something that sticks with you beyond moments that were particularly grisly or, were well done in terms of visual effects.
That's what we're here
like
for,
that.
though, bro. Like, it's, with shit like this, we're not trying to watch, like, some character development. I just want to see fucking dudes get killed.
Well, that's
basically...
Well, that's what I'm
And they
getting
knew
at,
they
is
were
that
serving the audience that they fucking knew was out there. It was like degenerates like me fucking killing 18 packs and watching teenagers die in the woods. I mean, that's fucking.
That's what I'm getting at, is that I think that the it's one of those things that the people that love it, they love it for all of those reasons, and then those that don't, they don't like it for all of those reasons. So it's
Right.
at the very least, though, the fans know precisely why they like it, and it's usually because of the fact that the critics and things like that that they lambasted it for that sort of for those reasons.
Sleeping bags and trees, baby.
Kim, did you get the favorite scene that you had?
Yeah, head crushing scene. That was good, Charlie.
It's super fun. It is. Eyeball coming at your shit. It's
You
great.
see, and my favorite scene is the one that nobody picked, which was the opening scene where you had the grocery store couple get themselves slaughtered by Jason.
I am partial to that one, man. That's why I brought it up when I was like, "Oh, Jake slept through it." Like you missed the fucking old people. They're not even old.
Part of it.
You know,
They're not even old. All those people are probably our age now, right? Like those people at the grocery store were probably similar age to. But it's so weird how you immediately put yourself in the position of teenagers watching this, and it's like they're the old people.
Jason saw basically what the guy was doing to the Sunny D, and he's like,
that's fucked up. Yeah, that guy deserved to die for that. He deserved to die way more than the stoner people. They were pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, and I'm sure in hell there's a specific spot for OJ spitters.
And people who just take random donuts from out of the box.
Yeah, really. Let's go up, leave like half a donut in there too, which is worse.
I mean, okay, this is a confession I don't make idly, but I did eat a chicken wing or two out of people's bags when I was a pizza driver, so I guess I can understand. That's pretty fucked up too.
But did you put like the bones back in there after you eat?
Only when they ordered like 230 pieces or something, I was like, these drunk motherfuckers don't need 60 chicken wings. I just eat like 4 of them.
So with that, we are going to move on to part 4, which is, of course, the final part. Well, this was a good series of movies. I'm glad that we got to the end.
Yeah.
But I guess they decided this was the end of this franchise at this point, and we'd never see another movie with them again.
Yeah, well,
it was making too much money.
Well, no one liked the series, clearly.
But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with part 4. Actually, we ended with Kim last time. Why don't we start with Kim this time? Was this your first time seeing part 4?
I answered this already. No, it's not.
Part 3, see, it might be different.
Okay, but I've seen all these films. Like, I grew up on these films.
Was your did you think it was the last one in the series?
I can't remember, like, because I was so young the first time I saw this. I was a kid, so I don't know. I can't remember whether I thought it was going to be the last one or not, but clearly the filmmakers
were a double feature with Follow That Bird.
Clearly the filmmakers intended this would be the last one, so, you know.
I don't think they really did. I think the people that made it. See, that's one thing I take some umbrage with, and stuff like this is there's guys that have the audacity to try to. I don't know if they thought that like the studio wanted to end it. I've never looked into it, honestly. Did the studio actually want to end it, or was it these dudes being like, "Oh, we're gonna kill Jason because it's our movie"?
They wanted to end it because Paramount, again, this is back in the day when film studios could still kind of sort of pretend to have dignity and, you know, something remotely resembling morality and everything. Because at that time, again, they were putting out stuff like Ordinary People and An Officer and a Gentleman and, you know, adult movies and stuff. So they were kind
We
of
didn't-
seeing
Plenty of adult movies.
We didn't mention last week. What do y'all think of the idea that I read about this, and I thought it was hilarious, of Friday the 13th being a nightmare parallel to Ordinary People? Because
That'd be cool.
they came out the same year. They both featured grieving mothers who treat everyone around them like crap. Drowned son. The one everyone loved and one the critics absolutely hated.
Why not?
It's kind of weird.
That movie
See,
really
I just don't know that I completely buy. Even if it was like some type of situation where the filmmakers thought that the studio intended it for it to be the last one, I don't think they really did. You don't make that much money on the first three where you sink the type of quality that they did into this fourth one, assuming you're going to end it with that one.
They certainly.
It makes for a good story, but I don't know if I buy it based on the other.
They
films.
actually they wanted part. They actually wanted part 3 with him with the axe and the whatever axe or machete in his head, whatever that was.
It was an axe.
It was an axe. They actually intended for that to be the last.
Bullshit. Based on what all you guys have said, they didn't want to do it from the first one. So, so they did
that's
three
precisely.
movies, and they're like, we're not going to do any more.
Well, that's precisely it, though. Is that the box office? The box office receipts.
I think they knew.
That's exactly it, though. The box office receipts, they kept coming back and well, it made a crap load of money, and it helped us to make these.
Yeah, the option was always there because this one comes so hot on the tail of the third one.
Another one.
I think this was the final chapter in the same sense of the word as the word final and Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Well, it's
just like that, they thought it was the final.
Well, basically, it allowed them to make those. It basically allowed them to make those, quote unquote, respectable movies that they wanted to make because it made so much money relative to what it cost to make.
So, Dave, you were trying to say something earlier, and why don't you tell us your first impressions of this film?
Of the fourth one?
Yeah, I figure since you were trying to say something, might as well give you the floor.
Apologies, bud.
I saw this a while ago for the first time as well because I grew up with them as well. Just not in the sense where I was studying them per se, but I guess this one was one to kind of pay attention to because this is very young Corey Feldman per se in this, and he ends up being young Tommy Jarvis as well. So it's his coming his puberty movie. This is when he became a fan.
Well, he was definitely showing interest. That's
in
for
every
sure.
sense of the word. I kid me wrong.
He didn't even have those the lesbian blonde high school sites to help him.
No, he had the girl next door in the window with that reaction. That
he
was
had to do it the old-fashioned way.
And to me, that was just like the time that I found a dirty magazine under my dad's side of the bed. It's like
it resonates, man. So he plays it so genuinely. How he jumps under the bed, and then he's like, he's freaking out. It's fucking.
So did you feel like this was like a? Did you watch them in order, or did you watch them out of order, Dave? Or was this one that you'd watch after 3?
I would have to say that I would have to say that I had seen 6 first, to be honest, before the marathon. But then I went back and watched I'd seen bits and pieces of the others during the TNT Men Who Love the Bravo.
Movies for guys who like movies.
Yeah.
Wasn't that
Okay.
I bet you were gonna say Men Who Like Men.
Epic days, dude. Movies for guys who like movies was so fucking badass, and that was at that time when instead of just editing swear words out, they would overdub them. So it'd be some fucked up stupid word that doesn't even make sense in the context. Like I like flipping pigeons or something. Like really.
It's just like MTV now. I mean, just the other day I watched Dirty Grandpa and they bleeped every F word out on MTV, and I was they should have just left every single word in there because then it made it like a bland movie, you know.
It could be worse. It's like when I watched The Big Lebowski on TBS, and they just cut. And they cut so much out. It was probably 20, 30 minutes shorter at the end. And they completely cut Jesus Quintana out of the film. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching
weird.
Mallrats on TV once, and they dubbed over almost all of Jason Mewes' dialogue.
There's a weird part of me that's like nostalgic for that stuff.
Bad.
I feel like I mentioned it. In
What
chat
would make it
not
really
that long
funny?
ago.
Did they bother dubbing over Snoochie Boochies?
That only dialogue he got. Yeah,
that might be one of the only lines that made the cut. Dude, I find myself weirdly nostalgic for that shit lately, like movie cut or TV cuts of shit back when they would replace crap with nonsensical shit.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Yes, yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Or I remember watching The Matrix on TNT, and it was like when he gets the bug out of his belly button, he's like, "Jeepers creepers, that thing was real."
So,
and they would say "shucks" instead of "shit," which I thought was great.
There's impressions in there.
Or like in Jurassic Park. Now that is one big pile of crap.
Yeah.
Jake, this is your first time seeing it, so you're actually the one person here that probably has a legit first impression to be had.
Right.
So, what were your first impressions here watching it for the first time?
Well, I can probably say that I do have more of an impression than I did from the third one. The film is still, again, barreling along a trajectory that jumped the track long ago. So that has to be taken into account. But overall, they did a much better job in almost every way as a film with this one than they did with the third one.
Yeah.
The acting was generally better. The characters were generally more interesting. The writing was generally better. It was still not my favorite film by a far sight, but I found it an interesting watch. And, you know, some of the stuff there were more parts of it that I appreciated and enjoyed. Crispin Glover's dance moves, I'll remember that.
The dead dance. My go-to mating ritual to this day.
Apparently, he would just do that at clubs. Like that was
dude. I would have been too if I.
Well, have you ever seen Crispin Glover interviewed like that? That infamous appearance he had on David Letterman, like he's a weird fucking dude.
I know, and this is one of the reasons I was surprised. I honestly didn't recognize him. Like I did, but I didn't, because I didn't realize he was in. I knew Corey Feldman was in the cast, but I hadn't really paid attention to the cast otherwise. And Feldman, I recognized instantly. He just that smirk. He had that smirk his whole life.
And we just got done with a movie with him in it that was only a year later, which was The Goonies.
And of course, I've seen Back to the Future, so I've seen Glover in just a couple of years after this. But it's been a while since I've seen that. Not since when we came up to the actual date of Part 2. They did that thing where they played the first two movies in theaters, and so I got to see that, and that was probably the last time.
I just keep whenever I see Crispin Glover in this role, I keep on hearing it in my mind. I just don't know if I can take that kind of rejection.
Yeah. Well, he should have. He should have told her that he was her density, and that would have done it.
Yeah. Well, I will say in this one,
I think to this day he's actually more proud of this movie than he is of Back to the Future.
Yeah, dude. And Willard, I'm pretty sure, isn't that Crispin Glover? And that,
Yeah,
I thought he was fairly fucking terrifying in Willard. You know?
Oh, Willard is awesome.
I can't help, like, given his overall body of work, one movie that I thought was underrated that he was in was Charlie's Angels, and I remember he was referred to throughout the movie as Creepy Thin Man, and I just can't really not think of that line. It's like, because he kind of is.
Yeah.
Not as much in this movie, but, you know, he's more goofy
Just
in this.
remember, those dance moves probably work. Okay.
So I'll remember that.
I'll keep that in mind.
That or if he is at a bar, you know, the key to impressing the ladies is give me a milk, chocolate.
Wait. Or just, you know, hey, you, get your damn hands off of her.
That too.
So,
His
Dane,
lines were quotable.
I'm sure this wasn't your first time. What would have been your first impressions, I guess, for your first time versus, say, now when you've watched it for this?
Yeah, it was not my first rodeo. I would say I agree with what Jake said, that overall as a film, I think it's got more going for it. I think that having a young kid who's seeing, you know, stuff that he shouldn't be seeing, and yet, you know, has a lot of talent with making masks and stuff, like that's pushing the series in a good direction right there. And, you know, I kind of wish that they'd have kept on that direction more faithfully, which they did in 4, 5, and 6, because those are the ones that have Tommy Jarvis in them. You know, it was like, okay, that's a step in the right direction, but it was, on the whole, I think it kind of, despite it being called the final chapter, it seemed like it was setting things in a good direction. And yeah, I think it just overall, it's got more in the way of consequential moments, and in addition to memorable moments, because this reminds me a little bit of Saw 3 in a way, not in terms of the plot, but like in terms of how it's those critical moments that happen in this film and in Saw 3 that kind of set the tone for what will be the rest of those series in many ways. And so in a way, it's like this is a pretty critical, pivotal point where Jason dies and stays dead for one whole movie after this, and doesn't come back until 6. And you know, when he does come back, he's super powered, and you know, so it's like that is still, and it also does kind of help to formulate exactly who Tommy Jarvis starts off being and who he will later become. And so, yeah, pretty consequential stuff in that respect. So, you know, consequential story elements are definitely important in a series like this.
And Jason's death in this movie, I mean, it's no wonder that it took him a while to come back from it. It was a brutal death.
Yeah.
He took a lot of damage.
Sliced like a piece of ham at a deli.
It seems not, which they don't really flesh this out in quite the way that I would have liked them to, but it seems like his death being a lot more permanent in this one is partially, well, not only is it the brutality of how he dies, but also I think a lot of it is the intention behind it, because Tommy is like, he loses it and he really has a lot of hatred and vengeance towards Jason, whereas other people are just kind of trying to survive or trying to not be killed or whatever. So in other words, it's like you could theorize that maybe it's not just how a person inflicts damage or tries to kill Jason in whatever way, but I think you could argue maybe there's something having to do with the intention behind it, that in order to supplant that kind of eternal vengeance that Jason wreaks upon the people that dare to set foot in on his campground. That maybe the only way to supplant that is by having a vengeance that's equally strong.
Who'd have
Maybe,
thought?
but the important thing to note here. Sorry, bud. This is quick. I promise. The important thing to note here is that this movie sets it apart from all the other like slasher horror franchises like that in a sense, because it's the only one to actually leave Jason, the character, dead for a movie, and do one where there wasn't the dude in the place of the character. So like Nightmare on Elm Street, they just revive Freddy every time, and they have that loophole that he can't really die.
Well, yeah, I mean that one at least makes a little bit more sense, just because he is the ruler of this dream world, and so how could you ever really kill him in that
They
respect?
revived fucking Jason Frankenstein style in part 6, so I'm
Yeah.
fully behind that.
And that's very deliberate, because that director was trying to pay homage to older horror films from like the 30s and 40s.
Works too.
I
stuff.
really admired, because that's how you do a film like that well. You pay homage to that which came before, but you do your own thing with it too.
We'll
let's
get
keep
there.
going.
I have plenty to say about Jason Lives because that's my favorite. But
Me too.
So,
To you, Brandon.
Derek,
Wait
you were
for next
about to
week.
say some,
I was gonna say something to the back like, who'd have thought that Corey Feldman would go all taxi driver way before G.I. Jane did? I mean, shaving of the head, gone all death sentence on Jason's ass.
Well, he picks a fairly clever way to try and beat Jason by reminding Jason of who he was when he originally died. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's a cool thing that pays off like really nicely, because it actually makes Jason, like, reminding Jason of his past life will like make him pause for a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you could almost
it's
argue
a cool
that,
callback to part 2 also.
but you could argue that he's so that what keeps him coming back is that he's kind of this eternal spirit of vengeance, even beyond a human being anymore. And so then when you remind him, when you remind him of who he once was, then that gives him pause, and that the only way to truly defeat him is to basically become him, to supplant that spirit of vengeance, which is why, Tommy Jarvis's mode of killing is so Jason-esque, but it's also so filled with like hatred and vengeance.
Well, let's see here. I think we haven't gotten to Mo on this one. Similar story, but what were your first impressions of this film?
Well, basically the same thing, man. I mean, I got it. Like, this actually was the first in the sequence that our video store had back in the day. So I started with like this, 5 and 6, and 7. I don't think they had 8. I saw that for the first time at my aunt's house in Southern Oregon on some weird farm. And she thought I was like watching porn or something. She walked in. It was the beginning of a Tales from the Crypt episode where the lady's like screaming a bunch. And she came in and caught me watching that, and it was just like all awkward. So I was like, well, I guess I'll watch one of her tapes. And she had Friday the 13th Part 8, so that was the first time I saw that one. But this was the first Friday the 13th movie I saw as a kid.
Wow.
Because our video store had like 4, 5, 6, and 7. No, that was all they had. So I used to rent those religiously until I got my parents to order those tapes from that like tape club. And I love this movie. I think most people, I'm sure Forrest will echo a lot of these same sentiments, but I think a lot of people that watched it back in the day immediately identified with this one because of Corey Feldman. We all wanted fucking Tommy Jarvis's bedroom full of like random props and effects and stuff like that. Yeah. definitely like this, Evil Dead, and Darkness by Leif Yonker are the things that were like in my mind when I made my first little short film. Killed my girlfriend all crazy. It was awesome.
And then you made the film.
Right, but basically, it's hard not to identify with Tommy Jarvis if you watch this as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Kim's swaying away from it towards other ones might be because she's a girl. I don't know. But as little boys, I think all of us that saw this at the time were like immediately in love with it, just because Tommy Jarvis fucking look at it. He's got like all these crazy things in his bedroom, and the fact that he actually killed Jason. Right, that too, which is kind of actually that's the first time that it happens in this series, and I think the only one really. There are other kids and later movies. I don't think so, but this one definitely struck home with me. For a long time, it was my favorite. Like, I was the generic Friday the 13th dude that would have been like, yeah, Final Chapter's the one, But I think over the years, I kind of gravitated more towards 5 and 6 and the later stuff in the Tommy trilogy, just because it's more interesting plot-wise,
Does he think I'm a fart head? Yeah!
So, Dustin, when was the first time like for you on Friday the 13th Part 4, and what are your impressions now?
For me, it was again during that Spike Marathon, and I think this is probably one of the better entries in the series. Sorry, my mouth just went completely dry for a minute there. This one, when I first saw it, it didn't really stick out that much in my mind. Because, again, it follows the formula. But this is the first one that does something different that deviates from the formula. When they have Tommy actually take Jason out. So this marks the beginning of, each movie has its own gimmick. In Part 5, it's like, is it Jason or is it Tommy? In Part 6, it's he's a zombie brought back to life. And also it's a comedy. In Part 7, it's, hey, he's going to fight somebody with psychic powers. But this is kind of the first event Friday. Yeah. Like, he's going to die in this one.
How about, let's see. Who do we miss? I think we've got Forrest left, right?
Yeah, I liked it, I guess, is the point I was attempting to make.
Okay, good. Sorry, Forrest, was this your first time? Probably not, I would expect.
I've probably watched this movie at least once a year for the last 20 years. And again, it was another one of those movies I rented on VHS for that whole big marathon as a teenager. For me, this is my favorite movie of the franchise. I really feel like this is where the point where the series hits its stride. Like they've got the formula down to a science. Also, you had you had better characters. I think the characters in this one were better than 3. Some of the best kills in the series. You actually had Tom Savini back to do the special effects. And then you had and of course, as they mentioned, was it Mo that mentioned Corey Feldman as Tommy? Because he's basically an avatar for the kids who watch this movie.
Savini.
Yeah, Tom Savini. Because he had that room of all those ghoulish props that most of us wish we had. But not just that, but also, at this point I had seen, I had already seen a good chunk of Corey Feldman's filmography. I had seen Back to the Future, so for me this felt like the first Friday the 13th movie that actually have something of an all-star cast with Feldman and Glover, because by the time I had seen it, they were already established names. Also, and man, I just lost my train of thought. Also, actually, with the character of Tommy, not only was he someone that young people could relate to, he was also, I feel like he was he was the closest thing the franchise ever had to a Laurie Strode or a Sydney or a Sydney or a Nancy Thompson as far as being a recurring protagonist.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last week, and someone pointed out that compared to those other characters, Tommy is like kind of piss poor or whatever. But it's, considering the depth of Friday the 13th as a whole, it's actually kind of surprising that we got a character with 3 movies worth of character progression.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They actually had a subplot that went somewhere and extended beyond. I thought that was something more than there. I mean, for me, my first impression with this was around the same time. Actually, like I said, I marathoned them the first time I saw them, past 2. And I have to say that this one I thought was more impressive. It kind of had 3 and 4 ran together to me. So I felt like they were just like right there alongside each other. But
Part 4 does take place yet again the next day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I kind of like them both. And like I said, they both kind of ran together for me, so it was hard to differentiate scenes from one movie to the other. Now I'm a little bit better with it since I've seen it a couple more times separate, but usually I've almost always seen it back to back with 3. And oddly enough, this time has not been all that different, really. We took a day between, but we've watched them both pretty much back to back. So it's, I guess that 3 and 4 kind of go together for me. I like the Corey Feldman thing. Like I say, it's kind of funny that we just covered The Goonies, and then we're covering the film that he did the year before that. So, because this is like 84, I think Goonies was 85. Was that right?
85,
Sounds
yeah.
right.
So, yeah, so it's kind of... And it's also interesting because Corey Feldman has kind of grown so much in 1 year, He looks so much older in The Goonies than he does in this, but it's only by a year. Mm-hmm. But, he's a kid. Kids that age grow quick.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But with that, let's move on to the main stuff throughout this. The plot of this one is relatively simple. You've got your Tommy Jarvis and his sister and their mother and that family living. And then, of course, you got your young people going again on some sort of like vacation to a house out in the middle of the woods. And then the people that they ran into just on the trail that they decided to pick up at the time. And that's essentially the whole of it. Jason runs into them, starts whacking them, and I think that the killing this time decided to start a little bit earlier and was strung out a little bit longer throughout. What's the kill count out, Dane? You've been keeping up with it?
I will tell you. So we had 10 in the first one, then 9, then we had 12, and then now at the final chapter we have 14.
So, we talked about Jason and the differences between the two. Jason in this one's much closer to the later Jasons because though he feels pain, he doesn't feel it as acutely. I mean, I remember the scene where he gets whacked in the hand. He just looks at it like, I got hit in the hand. He's not nearly as human as he was in the others. Yet at the same time, he's still more human than he was in the later ones. And you can even tell when they show his face at the end of the fourth one. But
see, if they didn't explicitly mention that it takes place a day after in these sequels, you could sort of buy that maybe years in the woods hardened him or something. Yeah.
What was that whack to the head with the machete? Because it hit something in his brain that kind of numbed his pain center, so he's not feeling the pain.
That could be, yeah.
So, does anybody have anything that they would like to talk about cast-wise and character-wise as we go forward? I mean, we talked a bit about Corey Feldman and Crispin Glover. We've talked about them. Any of the other cast that y'all would like to talk about or hit on?
This had the Doublemint twins in it, which is kind of a interesting fun fact.
Yeah. They were cute.
They were.
And I think one of their kills is one of the ones where I was like, So
They
I
get
got the Friday the 13th collection, and I watched all of it in roughly a week. Like, I just binged them all. So I'm not sure if it's in part 4, but I'm pretty sure it's in part 4. He throws one of the twins through the window, and the way she hits the ground, I look at that and I go, well, she might be okay.
Yeah, right.
She throws her through a window, and then she hits the roof of the car, and then rolls off.
This is a fun fact that Brandon,
I'm thinking of part
of all
7.
you guys, might have the most recollection of, but I actually have reviewed the entire issue of Fangoria that girl gets stabbed reading when she gets Kevin Baconed later.
Yep.
That entire Fangoria issue I have reviewed on my channel, so
Actually,
go and check that out if you.
That's pretty cool.
I remember I pointed that out when we were talking because she was in there. It was like thinking after the sex scene, and she was just kind of sitting there reading. And I know she had picked up a Fangoria magazine. I was like, oh, what?
Self-referentialness.
I'm telling you, man, I gotta get back on those reviews. Just maybe need a co-host, hint, hint. But yeah, continue.
So, you guys have any other characters that you want to talk about? I mean, other than, like I said, the main ones. We already kind of touched those. Was there...
Dude, I think she might actually get stabbed right after the blood drips on her right as she flips to the Godzilla 25th anniversary page.
Actually, I think I remember seeing Godzilla on the page when we were studying. The things
there.
you remember.
I just think there's a character to like.
Well, especially when you have intimate knowledge of that specific issue. There's other movies too that I don't know if we've talked about them, but I've definitely reviewed them, and you'd be surprised the horror movies Fangorias show up in, and when you've actually read the issue, it's pretty cool because you go like, oh yeah, that one's got the Scanners review on page 6.
Oh.
Yeah.
An old school Fangoria was the only way that you could really get in touch with the horror genre back in those days, especially. So,
oh yeah, dude! If you wanted that news, there was no Fango on Facebook or Bloody Disgusting or anything like that. You had to buy the goddamn magazine. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's see here. We had them. We had the guy. I mean, like I say, I feel like that we had our jokester to take the place of our previous jokester. He was a little bit less on the going after any particular female in that. I guess he had his vintage porno.
Isn't that guy in the last American version?
Yes, that was him, Lawrence Monason.
Yeah.
But he was a lot less annoying than the other one. I mean,
American Pie.
He was plenty annoying to Jimmy.
Well, yeah.
And he also had his Stone Age Stone Age laptop.
But darned if he didn't enjoy his old school porn.
That was old school.
I thought it was actually kind of funny. He's sitting there watching topless women from the 20s going out.
Stag films. That's what they were called. Stag films.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
But this kind of reminded me of the juggling scene in the previous movie where they was like, yeah, we're just going to go and do our thing. And they say, okay. He's just like, I'm enjoying this. I'll keep moving with this.
Mm-hmm. At least they were being dudes and watching a stag film and I think smoking weed and not juggling.
Of course, Tommy's sister is our survivor girl in this particular version.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all like her as compared to the last survivor girl?
I found her much more likable than Chris.
Oh yeah,
she got a little bit more character, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was a little more believable in the role, like I said, versus the other one. She reminded me, though, I can't really place it. There was something... she reminded me a lot for some reason of Laura Dern, but not really. You know what I mean? It wasn't... It was just... I'm trying to remember what the rest of it was, but whatever. But that little family was kind of fun, her and the mother and, the little kid. I thought it was hilarious reading that apparently Jason thought Corey Feldman, the guy who played Jason, thought Corey Feldman was a little brat. I thought that was kind of funny.
Kill him.
Gee, what a shock.
I wasn't
Yes,
shocked.
indeed. Indeed.
Apparently, Richard Donner with the Goonies, apparently he fucking hated all the kids.
That's what I heard.
Well, he said as much in his commentary, so he would repeatedly do things to fuck with them throughout the movie. So yeah, he did not like them. He didn't like working with kids in general. But then again, Donner has his own issues.
I think that at the end of the day, he does care about them. It's just that, they're kids. I mean,
Yeah, they're professionals back then, man. So it's
wasn't Donner
they
the
probably
one-
looked at kids the same way they did animals sometimes, where it's like, okay, we got to make this movie. So
Wasn't
these
Donner-
kids can be here for so many hours, and they can, we gotta tolerate their shittiness.
Wasn't Donner at the helm of the Twilight Zone movie when that whole thing went down where the kid died and the
I don't know if that's. Yeah, I don't know that that's any one person's fault too, and stuff like that. Yeah. Richard Donner seems like kind of a dick, though. I think is what we're getting at. And I can concur there. I mean, I agree. He seems like a dick. Not probably the dude that I would have wanted to work under, but I imagine it would have been similar to like cutting wood with your grumpy Canadian uncle.
But he also
the whole time,
he also made,
no matter what you do.
He also made Superman get off the ground, pun intended.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we'll look at the plot. There's not a lot to it other than kind of building up the character of Tommy, kind of moving things forward with the Jason plot, and then eventually leading to the death of Jason, and kind of the awakening of Tommy to his inner anger.
We do have the introduction of, I forget the dude's name, but the guy that's like camping out in tents and trying to hunt Jason or whatever. Like, that's the first appearance of that type of a character in the story, which would come in later, especially in like Jason Goes to Hell, being sort of a thing,
Fun fact, he wanted Creighton Duke to be Tommy Jarvis, but they couldn't get the rights to Tommy Jarvis. It was weird.
It is fucking weird.
It's supposed to be Tommy Jarvis, but yeah, the character of Rob, he's the kind of the precursor to the Duke.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like that guy out there hunting it, almost like it's like a Bigfoot type creature.
Yeah,
like I love that element of Jason that they add in with that, and it's just super cool that they continued it later on. Could have done a lot more with it, probably.
But yeah,
what's that for us?
So yeah, like acknowledging characters from previous movies, especially since he was out to avenge his sister who got impaled while having sex in part 2.
Yeah.
Well, if they hadn't killed him with one of those little lame claw rake things that your mom uses to like tend the garden, it would have been pretty fucking cool for him to keep going forward as like a Jason hunter. But I don't think they had that kind of foresight back then.
Yeah, I think you had a callback to stuff like that with that Vengeance film that we were talking about earlier on, where you had the kind of just a whole group of people getting together who've had relatives killed or bad experiences with Jason, all in order to come and hunt him down. So
I feel like that's kind of directly ripping off Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, though. I don't know how many of you guys have read those.
I've read
one,
that.
The Nightmare Warriors, was basically about that, right, Dustin? It was like all people who were related or were survivors of the movies,
Actually, I was thinking more like that movie that Dave wanted us to watch, because that one dude shows up. You gotta watch out for Bear. I felt like that was a direct nod to this, because I think that's what he said, right? Was he was bear hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was more what they wanted to go for instead of Tommy Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, any other plot
Yeah, they kind of throw him out there as like a red herring. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna kill Jason.
Yeah, actually,
Right.
nobody. I don't think anybody really expected the. Okay, question: anybody here who didn't know about the ending when they watched it expect Tommy to be the one to kill
Just a
Jason?
short no.
And that death.
Like I don't think most of us thought that the first time that we saw it because we'd seen other movies either previously or later. This was definitely my first one, and I didn't think he was gonna kill him. I don't know what the fuck I thought was gonna happen. Dude was jumping through windows and shit.
See, that death too, where Jason's head just slides down with a machete. I mean, that's probably one of the more brutal deaths, and that was Jason's death.
That was great.
Well, see, the whole idea that Tommy was the survivor was definitely spoiled for me before I saw this, so it wasn't a surprise at all.
What about you, Kim?
Either.
I see you over there wanting to say something.
No, I'm trying to find something on my phone. Sorry.
Well, actually, were you surprised the first time?
I like those glasses, those frames. It's nice.
Were you surprised the first time that you saw this that it was Tommy that ended up killing Jason instead of like one of the adult characters they had set up?
Oh yeah.
No, not really.
And
I mean, why can't the kid be the one who takes the killer out? I mean,
he went off too. He was like, ah,
die.
Well, he does what you should do in any horror movie. You make sure the killer is dead.
Oh yeah,
it's like, don't run away. Cut his head off.
Right.
Yeah, like don't do that one little like stab it in the neck and then run off or collapse into a puddle of tears and stuff. No, Tommy was pretty badass. Even for a kid, he was badass.
He comes downstairs looking all Gollum and shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, just because he's a kid doesn't mean that he can't kick ass.
So I know Kim and I watched the alternative ending, which of course they decided to drop the dream sequence ending in 4, but it doesn't mean that they didn't film one where they dreamed that Jason came back and started attacking them. And that kind of bridged the gap between that and waking up in the hospital.
Is it as lame as it was in the last movie? That's what we pretty much need to know.
Well, I mean, he just came back and started trying to slaughter them again once, It, to me, I don't know. I thought that was a good choice to say, okay, this is something we don't need at the end of every movie. I thought it was tedious at the end of 3, and really and truly, I think that they should have stopped at the end of 1. But that's me. What did y'all think? Do y'all think that the dream sequence was a good place to end it, or should they have kept going with that?
None of them
Fuck
worked
no,
for me.
dude. Dream sequences suck. No one wants to find out that part of some shit they just watched was a dream unless it's like super trippy and weird.
And unless
something
they're
like a
setting it up
slasher
for
movie, it's
else.
like it just feels like a cheap out, Fuck no, that makes me want to like show up at their house and kick their pizza into the front yard instead of delivering it, Like, fuck you.
I did always like the one in the first one where
Mo?
you see Jason come out of the rowboat.
Mo, you could do worse. You hand it to them, and then when they open it, they find half of it's missing.
Slap it out of their fucking hand.
You could pull a Walter White and just toss it on the roof.
There you go.
So I'm curious,
Simmer in the
Brandon, you're
sun.
talking about the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Did the cut you watched, did that explicitly show what happened to the mother? Because I seem to remember that they said that.
They discover her. This is in the dream sequence that they discover her dead in the bathtub.
Ah.
Yeah, I forgot that they had cut that out. That was a part of the part of the ending they cut.
Yeah. I was just curious.
They ultimately decided it was better not to show what happens to the mother.
Yeah, I think it was tasteful that way.
Agreed.
But I remember growing up. That's why I was confused that whether the mom died or not, because you don't see it. You don't get any idea whether she's alive or dead at the end of the movie. So I was really confused. I was like, did the mom die?
because she walks outside and she's like, and you see Jason like swing.
They
Yeah.
also kind of leave it ambiguous with the dog too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
Well, Jason
dog.
didn't kill the dog in the first film, or no, second film. So I guess he's
Yeah.
not out to kill the dogs. He's out to kill the people. So
Yeah.
That's the thing. Kane Hodder, who plays Jason in the majority of the films, has kind of his own character rules for Jason, and one of them is like Jason wouldn't bother with animals.
You can kill as many people as you want, but you never kill a pet. People
Yes.
get upset.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't get upset when you kill their friends, just their pets.
Exactly.
Oh, speaking of, well, I mean, think about it. We were talking about this in what was it, American Psycho,
Yeah.
where he basically
Yeah.
beats that dog to death, kills the dog, and we're all like, "Oh my god!" Meanwhile, we see him kill those other people, like, but that dog, no, he was a scumbag for killing the dog.
I
The
mean,
first thing I'm
it's-
doing when I make a movie like that is killing a kid and a dog. You know, like it's
it's
You
one of
don't
those.
kill a kid, and you don't kill a dog.
It's one of those
You
things
do.
where I
Cats
think
are
it's.
okay.
Well, it's because I love cats. It's one of those things where I think, animals and children are seen as innocent, and adults generally, they've done something that will often necessitate them.
But
not
see, that
makes it
fucking
makes it
Wendy's
sting
girl
and
getting her
stuff.
face splattered all over the screen in the Beyond is still an impactful moment. You know? Like, yeah, you don't want their kids to die.
You know, though, every
But when
now
he's
and
like, boom, Wendy's girl, fuck you, you know, and her face just goes,
every now
it's
and then you get
amazing.
one that really does deserve it, though. It's like
Yeah.
one of the ones in the Kino sale that I was tempted by, but I do have it on DVD, was The Good Son. I was tempted to do an upgrade. That's a good example of a kid that deserved
Do
it.
it.
Oh, good God, yeah.
Good
Well, just
son.
how him get stung to death.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I did like an American Psycho where they spared the kitten. I did like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big cat fan, so I sympathize.
Well, with that being said, let's talk about special effects for this one. I think that they really upped their game on the part 4. Especially for the
Savini,
kills.
right?
Yeah, Savini.
Yeah.
Yep, he was excellent. This one.
That's what
Generally
you got there.
speaking, the effects in the series do get better as they go along.
And, I mean, shoot, like I said, the Jason kill alone was very well done. But they did a lot of stuff to work it through this one.
Well, when you look back on the stunt work of the movie, like this and Part 7, I think have the most impressive stories. I mean, that dude almost clipped himself to death jumping through that fucking window at one point. And, yeah, I think, didn't they bring the whole house down on top of his ass in this bitch, or is that in Part 7?
That's part 7.
Yeah, part 7.
Yeah, that's Kane Hodder for sure. But, this is where they really started up in the ante, for sure, when it came to, like, visual effects and stunt work with the character. I think this Jason is the first Jason that has the claim to fame of being, like, the dude who kind of pioneered stuff that they would do later. There's that whole famous bit where he bursts through the wall or the door, is it again? And
She nails the door
I mean,
and
like-
he just like smashes through.
Well, I thought that was
Yeah.
funny that it's like she's going to like, that's going to keep him out, looking out the window like he can't get through there, throws the body through the window.
Yeah.
And that's one of those classic scenes where they didn't like tell them the timing properly. So
Right.
it was intentionally like orchestrated to scare the fucking shit out of them, and it seemed to work, man. You look at little Corey Feldman during that, like he's all of his movie roles are probably flashing through his eyes right there.
So, with that, there was also music, and as I stated in the last one, a lot of the music being lifted throughout the series, but there were a couple of things. Of course, you had your ending theme and a couple others, and some of them were pretty good. Do you feel like any of these were majorly iconic for you?
Well, I am disappointed by something I'm reading in the trivia here that apparently
man.
the Crispin Glover's dance was supposed to be by Back in Black, which I can visualize, hear that as I'm kind of disappointed that they subbed it out with a song I don't really know.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah, but Back to Black is
as soon as
too
I'm out of this
slow
call,
for what he was doing.
Well, I don't know with what he was doing how important the speed of the song was.
I was gonna say that was like the ultimate like white boy dance, like totally not. Well, that was like it was the ultimate white boy dance where it wasn't even remotely on beat or anything.
Oh yeah. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead to favorite scenes. We'll start with Jacob. What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene. I keep coming back to the dance scene. That's got to be one of them. I can't really swear to it that there's anyone I would rank higher. Overall, this one had a few good scenes, but nothing really jumps out at me above that.
Well, nothing did jump out at you. This one wasn't in 3D.
Well, I didn't watch
My
the other
favorite
one.
scene, I'll just get it right out of the gate, is that girl that jumps through the window at that one point. That's pretty rad.
Mine is kind of a weird. It's kind of a weird one. It's that moment where the girl in the shower, she puts on the towel, she runs downstairs, and Jason nails her through the door with that axe, and like the axe just like bam, it just appears in her chest, and she falls over.
Yeah,
like that makes me flinch. That makes me like flinch. That's the kill. That's the kill that I remember when I think of this movie, and it always makes me go ooh.
I mean, that was a projectile. Projectile axe.
The first movie too, where I can think of that, like, I forget what the dude called it in the video, but it's like that final tour the Survivor girl does, where she finds all the bodies and shit. And this one has one of the better ones for sure. That dude's like nailed outside the door, and then shows him ripping like it has that going for it. When she finds the bodies later, is a pretty good moment. Then I'm pretty sure he immediately kills the cool like Jason Hunter guy with that weird little garden tool.
I like this scene. Well, I think this was after the dance scene, but it was where the Crispin Glover and the girl where they're slow dancing, and she's actually going to give him a chance to, because he's been on the outs with everybody for the whole movie, and so it's like, hey, look at that, he's finally going to get his groove on, and then it's like, hey, look at that, the boy became a man, and then all of a sudden, he gets killed, but still, it's like, hey, at least he got, at least a girl gave him a chance, which is more than a lot of us can say.
At least he went out on top.
He got his groove, he lost it, and unfortunately he didn't get the chance to get it back like Stella did.
Well, I think Jake was trying to say he went out with a bang.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Forrest, what was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, probably Jason getting whacked in the face with a machete and sliding down the blade. That was probably my favorite. That was probably my favorite moment in this movie.
Oh, right.
It was just a good gruesome effect.
Yeah, you feel that one.
His face is like making expressions too as it's going down. I mean, yeah, it's a little dated if you look at it now, but at the same time, it's still fucking gnarly for the time.
What about you, Dave?
Well, I would have to say my favorite scene is actually when Corey Feldman is peeping Tommen. To be honest, I don't know why, but that is just a classic teenage boy moment. I mean, who else would like fucking like laugh or half laugh during that whole scene, you know? But I do like the fact that we get the sliding down of the machete scene. I mean, that was through his fucking eye, you know. It was.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely effective. And
Well, Corey
as
Feldman,
definitively
he
dead as you can make a slasher dude at the time.
well, Corey Feldman didn't have, blonde lesbian high school students on the internet. He had to find them in real life.
Yes, he did.
Oh, luckily he
Yeah.
was able to do so.
Yeah, he had a whole plethora of voluptuous teenagers to choose from.
So, Kim, what was your favorite scene?
Probably. Okay, I won't say anything with Chris McLover. I'm gonna be honest. I just love,
Especially the dance.
especially the dancing. And I was so glad after like his friend called him a dead. You know what?
Right.
I was so
A
glad
dead
that
fuck.
he was.
That's the name of the dance online. If you guys ever want to look it up, is dead
The
fuck
dead
dance
fuck
moves,
dance.
and that's where you'll
Well-
find the gold.
Either way, I'm just glad that he was the one who got laid with the hot chick.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like, hey, for once a girl gave him a chance.
You know, though, there was like that brief moment where her sister came up, and I thought, damn, he's about to get really have a fun. But no, she was just coming up to be a wet rag.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who thought of that. I'm like, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
If we're gonna do the twin thing,
It's such that a lot of the times girls won't give you a chance, and so it's nice when you have the one time where someone is able to get lucky despite him having gotten killed soon after.
see,
Oh, you see, that
preferably
was
we
the,
would have had enough time for him to attempt a switch hit on that shit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So, my favorite, of course, is just the whole scene with Tommy, ending in the whole machete scene. I just love how he sees the hand twitch. He's like, double tap that, take that out.
That's
To me,
right.
that's just like that's the way that people should be acting. Not, oh look, let's hide behind the wall of chainsaws. It's just the kind of reactions we were seeing from the third film. It's good to see somebody actually being smart in those, and then seeing it reflected in the fifth movie as well. This whole event and the scarring, and we'll get into that one soon enough. With that being said, I know it's getting late. I want to thank all of y'all for coming on and chatting with us today of this Horrorween as we end our October, but Horrorween is not over yet. We're going to go through all of them as Jason resurrects. We're going to take a break for the election because two of us at least cannot be out
True
late
horror
on the
story.
election night before the election.
That's
But-
its own horror movie.
Indeed.
We will be back the week after to cover part 5 and part 6.
If we're all still here.
Yes,
I do have something I want to mention though before we get too crazy into everyone's outros. So I'll just do them real quick. I do moonlight on a channel called Happy Hour Comic Club, and I do have a series over there I do called the Happy Hour House 4. Last year around this time, I reviewed pretty much every single Friday the 13th comic, except for the last 2 in the lot. I plan on doing that over the next couple of days, but if you guys would like to go over to Happy Hour Comic Club, check that out, and check out those reviews, that'd be awesome. It's also a couple for, shit like Leatherface from Topps Comics, or, the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash comics, I believe I have a review up for those as well. And a lot of the Evil Dead stuff, so definitely worth checking out.
I actually
Good.
just got Leatherface versus Jason issue 1 from eBay. I finally won a copy that wasn't $1 million.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's sweet.
If you
I
ever
love
want to
it.
just read it, I got it digital. I can hook you up with that.
Oh yeah,
So-
I've had it digital for a while, but I really wanted one I could put on my wall.
So Mo,
Yeah,
while
it's
we're
worth
on
having.
I've had physical copies for 20 years now.
I also got a couple of Hellboy volume reviews coming out in the next couple of days and some spooky manga. So I've been over there a lot, actually, on Happy Hour Comic Club. Hellboy is my newest obsession, so that's what you guys will be getting.
So what you up to on Drunken Master Studios while we're on you?
Not a fucking thing, bro. I put all my effort into that Halloween thing over there because we haven't been doing Comic Club in a while, so I was stoked when those guys wanted to bring it back because it fires me up to do reviews, you know?
Very much. Well, check that out. I know I've subbed to it and looking forward to it. And we see a kitty cat.
Teacher says hi.
So,
Yes.
Kim,
Let it bite you, Jacob, to sustain Brandon's thirst for violence.
so Kim, tell us about your channel. I know that you've been working on some stuff.
Yeah, well, so my YouTube channel is called Kim Creates Stuff. I still want to change that name of my channel. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna change it to, but my video that I've got coming up, I'm hoping to film this weekend, or probably hoping Friday. It's going to be essentially a review on the Hellbound Heart. From a comedic perspective, while I'm either putting on my makeup or doing something else, I'm not really sure what. Either way, I'll be talking about that daggone book and comparing it to the movie.
Yes.
And I
My
bought
girlfriend
a
loves
new
books.
camera, like, while we were on the show tonight. That's what I've been doing, looking down my phone and looking at other stuff. I was buying a new camera. So I'll be picking that up at Best Buy tomorrow.
All right. Jake, do you have anything new for us on your end?
Well, I'm Kotobuki Jake, as you all know, because you watch us faithfully.
Yeah, we're on this channel, eh?
Yes. I am the co-host on SeptumSin vs. World. I also moonlight with these fine folks on Delusions of Grandeur and Inside Movies Galore, and we've got some interesting discussions, I'm sure, coming up this week.
That's
and y'all will be happy to know I did film a short video the other day that'll go up on my own channel whenever I have time to put it together. I don't know when that'll be, but it has been filmed. So,
is that the one where you get
Also,
bit by the
pretty sure
rattlesnake?
I'm gonna pressure.
no, but it
Jake.
does involve a snake. What?
Also, pretty sure I'm gonna pressure Jake into a monthly manga podcast. So
There you go.
there we go.
Oh, if I had time.
Oh, Jacob, I will make time. Okay.
How about you, Forrest? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm based in Long Island, New York. Producer of movies such as Camp Murder and I'm sorry, kind of tired right now.
Understood. That's why we're moving it close to the
Mostly
end.
Wet and Wild Adventures at Walmart is another film that he's going to produce eventually.
I've got a few movies. I've got quite a few movies being produced currently in the pipeline, including Camp Murder and Strix and Tox. Actually, I got one coming up in a week or so called Toxic America, which is it's actually going to be a web series created by Seon Carlo Boseda. And then this coming month on this coming November on Friday the 13th, I will be taking a road trip to Hardwick, New Jersey, where the original Friday the 13th was filmed, and I'll be visiting the camp. I'll be touring the actual campgrounds.
Ooh, Nobi Busco.
Yep.
You'll be doing that when we're on part 5 and 6, won't you?
I'll probably let's wait 5 and 5 and 6. That'll be on
Yeah,
the
it's conveniently timed. They'll be busy with elections. You'll be doing awesome shit, and I'll be eating fucking microwavable pot pies.
It'll be on.
doing awesome shit. Hopefully, not getting machete to death.
I was gonna say the
Please
next
tag
one.
me on those posts for us.
Will do.
Actually, no, you'll be doing it on Friday the 13th. So no, you'll be doing it when we're talking about 7 and 8.
Yeah, he went legend status with the shit. Right.
So, with that being said, let's see, Dustin. Thank you for joining us on this Monday.
Oh,
Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I usually don't do the Monday show, but I've kind of got a little bit more time now.
We're happy for it.
So, I am a horror collector here in Milwaukee. I have a YouTube channel for my collection, The Crypt of Horrors, and I've been a lot more active on my Instagram lately, also The Crypt of Horrors, where I show off my collection. Like what I'm doing now is I'm trying to watch one horror movie every day for October, and so I've been posting the results of that. I think I'm a little behind. I'm a couple days behind, but I had a lot of days where I saw 3 or 4 things, so I'm pretty sure I'm still at the right number.
Oh, same here.
Like I watched Friday the 13th part 4, 5, and 6 in one day.
Dude,
earlier.
I've been slacking so hard. Like I had to force myself to watch 2 horror movies the other day, which is weird for me. But I don't know, man.
Hey guys, I'm gonna sign off because my AirPods are dying. So I'm supposed to say goodnight to all of you guys, and except for Septum, I'll see him in a few minutes when he comes upstairs.
Yeah, we won't be long.
Thanks for joining
Bye,
us.
guys.
Bye.
Anyway, like I was saying, you get kind of fatigued when you do like the hardcore marathon, like I'd been doing.
Yeah.
So there have been a couple days where I just like put on like a streamer or something instead of a movie, because it's like the movie takes energy. But you know, we started getting back into it. So we did Little Monsters for yesterday.
Wait, which Little
great.
Monsters?
The Fred Savage, Howie Mandel.
Wait, there's what?
Because there's another movie called Little Monsters with that's on Hulu with Lupita.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I just I don't want them remaking that anytime soon. I'm physically sick, I think.
I don't think you could remake it.
No.
I mean, so
Dustin,
something.
shut your.
Well,
Don't
something I
fucking say
something I-
anything about that.
Something I learned from the extras on Little Monsters was that Brad Bird was attached to direct it for a while, and the guys who wrote it went on the write for Disney and Pixar. So, Monsters Inc. is probably a product of Little Monsters.
It makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
You can see it, like right in it. The whole gimmick of them coming out from under the beds of the closets, like it's fucking little.
And definitely don't forget to check out the
I just
Crypt of,
recently double featured it with my nephew.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
But
yeah,
anyway,
Crypt of Horrors all day, dude.
Oh, Crypt
Yeah.
of Horrors
That's
is
some
a
dope collection.
good stuff there. Yeah.
yeah,
You want a dope fucking double monster review? You do what I did with my nephew recently, which is Little Monsters and Monster Squad. And
ooh, that's a good
yeah.
double feature.
yes.
Then you
It was
combine them
fucking-
into the Little Monster Squad.
Yeah,
So,
makes me.
good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, be sure to subscribe to my channels and follow me on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter at DurCryptaxis as well. So I hang out a lot on Twitter, so do that.
So, Dane, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've got your indie horror collective.
Indie horror film creative.
I keep messing it up. I don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I'm on there. Indie horror film creative. I did one episode recently where I showed off the rectified version of the Back to the Future 4K set after Amazon delivered a version of it that was destroyed before. So glad for that, and I showed off the Alfred Hitchcock 4K set that I finally got, and then this evening a bunch of slipcovers came in the mail, so I showed those off, and yeah, I do a lot of Blu-ray unboxings and things, and also a filmmaker going to be filming a film hopefully in the wintertime, and that way it'll be ready for an anthology in March, so good stuff on the horizon, but yeah, just mostly thankful that my life is kind of stabilizing.
Awesome. That's some good stuff. Some interesting pickups, and of course, a lot of insight to these titles. So that's always good. If you want to learn something, that's the channel to do it on. Of course, Dave, I know you with Inside Movies Galore and Delusions of Grandeur. Lots of amazing stuff. But tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I am one of the founding fathers, as Septum here has said, of Inside Movies Galore, where we talk about movies that either are new or old or whatever the heck we decide to vote into to the spectrum, and I think we've had fun going into our midway section here with Christmas coming up. So at least of our third year, will it be, or
been a while now, definitely.
But we are definitely having fun. I mean, next week we have this. In fact, tomorrow night we are going on about two movies, one from the 80s and one from the 90s, Night of the Demons and From Dusk Till Dawn. So please join us there. But I also moonlight on a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I go on about films that I have picked up and various film reviews, thoughts of my own, that I like to put out there because I just enjoy sharing my thoughts and information that I pick up while watching some of these films. So definitely check those out when you get a chance. I know I have to get back into doing some of that work has been taking up some of my time. But in any case, I know I have a couple of video pickups that I plan on doing, since I have at least the last 2 months worth of videotape. So yeah, so go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to any one of those two channels. And I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow night.
Well, with that, of course, you're watching SeptumSin versus the World. We do appreciate your time and effort watching us. And normally we do this live, but we didn't rate this one. So we're going to move forward. Of course, next week is going to be interesting, as it is election week. And because several of us are doing things that are tied in with it, it's going to be a little bit disruptive to the schedule. But I'm hoping that we will have we're going to have at least some form of new release video and some form of pickups, I think, next week. I think the pickups will be on time.
Yeah, just all of you remember that all Ninja Scroll related fan mail and artifacts are to be sent to Kodabiki Jacob.
He's the biggest fan of the so
P.O. box somewhere in the fucking the woods of the goddamn East Coast, because he's just out there not making nature videos.
Well, he's
pretty much
well, he's posing in front of his house.
Look at him out there. He's got a cabin and everything. Where the fuck are our nature videos, Dave?
And I have sun. You can see it's bright out.
I'm pretty sure this fine gentleman required you've been bitten by several snakes now, and you still.
I told him that's how he's going to get all the subscribers. Is he's going to have to be bitten by them all.
Coyote Peterson.
But yeah, as far as Inside Movies,
I like your new haircut.
As Dave said, it has been about 3 years. 2017, June specifically, was the birth of that channel.
Oh shit, Dave! Did they get your background request over there? I see
No,
it's
I'm just
Testament.
using a
No, this
I'm
is just
just
me.
using a different program.
I need to find that background, but with Bob Ross.
So, with that being said, of course, check us out. Of course, this week we still do have a lot of stuff coming up. We have our normal stuff. I'm going to see if I can get one more part of that playthrough for Costume Quest up, which will be fun. And another part of rating my collections. So we still have quite a bit this week to look forward to. And then on Inside Movies Galore, you should join us on Tuesday night as we talk about Night of the Demons, followed by From Dusk Till Dawn, of course. So, with that being said, many of us will want to go to sleep so that we can prepare for that conversation, as this is our only job. And we will see you all on the next one.
Night.
Night.